We hadn't touched each other in months, but I still made his lunch every morning. That day, it was leftover pasta in a Rubbermaid container, with a little Parmesan packet from Papa Tony's. I remember because I spilled some on the counter and wiped it up with the sleeve of my hoodie. The kitchen light buzzed above me. The floor was cold. Outside, the rain hadn't stopped in 2 days, and the gutters were gurgling like they were trying to choke down the season. I'm 52. I live in Oak Ridge, Kentucky. Been a receptionist at a medical imaging place for almost 19 years. And I've been married to Scott since I was 27. 25 years of his socks in the laundry. Of La Z-Boy recliners and Sunday pot roasts, and his heavy breath beside me every night like a metronome that used to feel safe. Lately, it just felt loud. He stopped noticing things a while ago. My haircut. The way I started making my own breakfast. The candle I lit every night that smelled like warm amber, not because I liked it, but because I wanted to feel something in the room besides silence. I wasn't looking for anything. I really wasn't. It started with a wrong message. Some stranger pinged me on Facebook Messenger, meant for someone named Lisa, but it landed in my inbox instead. I typed back, sorry, not Lisa. He replied with a laugh emoji and a voice note. His name was Nolan. Said he used to work with Lisa at a theater in Bowling Green. His voice was nice. Young, maybe mid-40s, but soft-spoken. Like someone who didn't need to yell to be heard. I ignored it at first. But that voice note stuck with me. It made me feel seen, in a weird way. Like someone bumped into my world by accident and actually looked around. The next night, I responded. We started talking about music. I mentioned I liked old Fiona Apple and Dusty Jazz records. He sent me a link to a cover of I Know played on piano, live, crackly with room noise. I listened to it 3 times under the covers with one AirPod in. That became our thing. Late night messages. Voice notes. Songs. Jokes about the world. Jokes about ourselves. I knew it was stupid. I'm a grown woman. I have a husband. A mortgage. A Buick that needs new brake pads. But I kept checking that little green dot to see when he was online. I told myself it was harmless. Just messages. Just laughs. But it wasn't harmless. He started sending photos, not of himself, not at first, just things. A coffee mug shaped like a camera lens. His beat-up sneakers. A sketchbook with messy doodles of park benches and birds. Once, a receipt from a gas station where he wrote my name in the corner with a Sharpie. I don't know what that did to me, but I kept the photo. Then one night, I sent one back. Just my hand on the couch, holding a book. No face, no risk. But he knew. Your hands are beautiful, he said. And just like that, I was on fire. The guilt came and went in waves. Some nights, I'd stare at the ceiling while Scott snored, wondering what the hell I was doing. Other nights, I fell asleep with my phone under my pillow. We hadn't met. But we talked like we had. Laughed like we had history. Whispered like we were 10 seconds from touching. Then, one Friday, Nolan messaged me. I'll be in town next week. Just for a day. Wanna grab a coffee? My hands shook. I read it 3 times. My thumb hovered. Scott came in the room right then, looking for his charger. I jumped like I'd been caught stealing. Everything okay? He asked, already halfway back down the hall. Yeah, I said, locking my screen. Just spam. The next morning, I told Nolan yes. I don't know why. Or maybe I do. I smelled my own perfume before I left the house that day. The cheap one I used to wear in my 20s. The one Scott always said reminded him of when we first met. That made it worse. When I walked into the cafe, Nolan was already there. Blue hoodie. Baseball cap. A little older than his voice, but still him. We talked for hours. No touching. Just hands around warm mugs, legs brushing under the table by accident, or maybe not. I told myself I wouldn't see him again. But that night, when I got home, my phone buzzed as I walked through the door. A message from him. "You lit up today. Let's do it again." And underneath it, a photo. Of me. Taken from across the cafe. Smiling. I froze. Because I didn't remember smiling like that. And then I heard Scott's voice from the kitchen. "Hey, you left something on the table." I turned. He was holding a receipt. Not mine. Not from anywhere near Oak Ridge. The receipt was crumpled, like he'd found it by accident. But the way he stood there, not saying anything, just holding it out to me with those tired eyes. That wasn't an accident. I took it from his hand like it was radioactive. Smooth, thin paper. I unfolded it slowly, my fingers cold, barely working. $12.86. 2 Americanos. 1 croissant. Art House Cafe, Louisville, Kentucky. Date, 2 days ago. Time, 3:17 p.m. I felt everything inside me tighten. My throat closed, my heartbeat went weird and stuttery, like I'd missed a stair. That was the cafe. That was the day. He didn't say a word. Just walked back into the kitchen. Opened the fridge like he was looking for milk or beer or maybe a time machine. I stood there frozen in the entryway with the receipt in my hand and my bag still on my shoulder. My coat zipped to my chin like armor. "Where'd you find this?" I finally managed. His voice was quiet. Matter of fact. Like someone explaining how to fix a faucet. "Your jacket. Inside pocket." I nodded, even though I wasn't sure why. We didn't fight. That was the worst part. We just sat down at the kitchen table, like we were about to go over bills or compare calendars. The light overhead flickered once, then steadied. Outside, the rain was still coming down in sheets, hitting the windows like static. My hands were in my lap. The receipt lay between us like a loaded gun. He spoke first. "I thought maybe you'd say it was a work thing. Or a friend. Or just something innocent." I didn't answer. Because anything I said would sound like a lie. But then I remembered, he went on, still not looking at me, "We don't know anyone in Louisville." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. What was I going to say? That it was just coffee? That there were no hotel rooms, no sheets, no kiss? That it was only my heart I'd given away? That somehow felt worse. "I didn't sleep with him," I said, quietly. Scott nodded. Still no eye contact. "Okay. But I wanted to. I think." That finally made him look up. His eyes didn't go wide. He didn't curse. He didn't even flinch. He just stared. And in that stare, I saw all the years. All the birthdays and dentist appointments and microwave dinners and dog walks and cold nights when the power went out and we held each other under 4 blankets. It all lived behind that look. He leaned back in his chair. Ran a hand through his hair. "When?" he asked. I took a breath. "About 3 months ago." A message. It was a mistake. But I answered it. I didn't say Nolan's name. It felt like saying it would rip something open that I couldn't close. "Jesus," he muttered, looking away again. "I didn't plan it," I said. "It just happened." "I know." We sat there in silence for a long time. The hum of the fridge filled the room. Somewhere down the hall, the dog barked once in her sleep. Finally, I said it. "I don't feel seen anymore." He didn't reply. Just closed his eyes, like that sentence hurt more than anything else. I feel like I don't exist in this house. Like I'm just background. Still nothing. Not even a nod. I stood up. My knees almost buckled. "I'm going to stay at Nora's tonight." He didn't stop me. Didn't even ask which bag I'd packed. Just said, "Leave your key. Please." That please almost broke me. Because it wasn't angry. It was quiet. Defeated. Like someone who knew this wasn't a pause, it was a fracture. I drove in silence. 42 minutes to Nora's place, through the storm, windshield wipers on max, radio off. My phone buzzed once at a red light. "Nolan. I know it's late, but are you okay?" I didn't answer. I stared at the screen until it went dark. Then I dropped the phone into the cup holder and didn't touch it again. That night at Nora's, I lay on her couch with her old scratchy throw blanket and a bowl of cereal I couldn't finish. The ceiling fan creaked above me. In her kitchen, the microwave blinked 12 o'clock in green. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just lay there. Not in my home. Not with my husband. Not in his arms. And not in Nolan's either. Somewhere in between. Too far gone to go back. Too scared to go forward. I closed my eyes. And I saw that photo again. Me in the cafe. Smiling. But it wasn't real. Not really. Because that smile was borrowed. That moment was borrowed. And someone always comes to collect. Then. My phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't from Nolan. It was from a number I didn't recognize. Just 4 words. "You looked happy today." I stared at it. My breath caught. Because I knew. It wasn't Scott. And it wasn't Nolan. It was someone else. And suddenly, nothing made sense anymore. I sat up fast, the blanket tangling around my legs, heart hammering so hard it echoed in my ears. "You looked happy today." The message stared at me like an open eye. Unknown number. No name. No photo. Just those words. I held the phone in my lap, barely breathing, thumb hovering above the screen. I was still in Nora's living room. Still in my old college sweatshirt, with one sock on and one missing. The bowl of half-eaten cereal had gone warm and soggy on the coffee table. Who the hell sent that? I hadn't told anyone I was going to the cafe. I hadn't even told Nora why I was here. She thought Scott and I were just going through a thing. She had no idea how deep the thing went. And she definitely didn't know about Nolan. I reread the message 4 times. The phrasing, it wasn't Nolan's. He didn't text like that. He sent audio. Or pictures. Or random thoughts about the moon or traffic or old jazz records. This felt deliberate. Watching. I didn't respond. Instead, I locked the phone and shoved it under the pillow. But I didn't sleep. Not really. I drifted in and out, replaying every moment from the cafe. Who was there? Did I see anyone staring? Did someone take a photo besides Nolan? I remembered the woman 2 tables down with a red laptop and headphones. An older guy reading the paper, sipping black coffee so slow it looked like a ritual. A teenager in a puffer jacket scrolling TikTok with the volume too loud. None of them looked at me. At least I didn't think they did. But now. I wasn't sure. At 5:38 a.m., I got up. Paced the kitchen in my bare feet, drinking cold water straight from the breeder pitcher. The tile was cold. The light was too bright. My hands were shaking a little. I opened my phone again. No new messages. I clicked on the number. No info. No linked name or account. I should have blocked it. I should have erased the thread and gone back to sleep. But instead, I typed, "Who is this?" and hit send. The little delivered checkmark appeared, then nothing. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. No reply. I tossed the phone onto the couch and tried to distract myself. I picked up a magazine Nora had left on the counter, some self-help article about forgiveness and moving forward. The cover had a smiling woman with perfect teeth and a quote in bold that said, "Own your past. Reclaim your future." I wanted to laugh. Or scream. Instead, I made coffee and stared out the window until the sky turned from black to gray. Nora came into the kitchen around 7, her hair a mess and her t-shirt inside out. "Hey," she said, rubbing her eyes. "Sleep okay?" I nodded, even though I hadn't. "Yeah. Thanks for letting me crash." She poured herself coffee and leaned against the counter. "You want to talk about it?" I shook my head. "Not yet." She didn't push. She never did. Later that day, I drove around aimlessly. Past my old high school. Past the church where Scott and I used to go before we stopped pretending we believed in anything. I didn't go home. Didn't go back to Nora's either. I ended up in the Kroger parking lot, sitting in the car with the engine off, watching people come and go. Moms wrangling kids. Old couples pushing carts side by side. Teenagers in pajama pants buying energy drinks. My phone buzzed again. Same number. New message. You didn't answer my smile. I froze. My mouth went dry. My fingers tingled. That confirmed it, whoever this was, they'd been watching. They'd seen me. At the cafe. Maybe more than once. I typed fast, hands shaking. "Who are you? Why are you watching me? Read receipt." Then another message, 2 seconds later. "Don't worry. You're safe with me." That one did something to my spine. It wasn't just creepy. It was knowing. Like they weren't just watching, they understood something about me I hadn't said out loud. Something I didn't want anyone to know. I blocked the number. I should have done it right after the first message. I knew that. But something in me had wanted to see what they'd say. Maybe I needed to feel seen, even if it was by a stranger. Even if it was through a keyhole. But now it felt like the air around me had changed. Like someone had drawn a line in the sand, and I was standing on the wrong side of it. I went back to Nora's. She wasn't home. She'd gone to her sister's, left a note and some leftovers in the fridge. Chicken salad, her handwriting said, and a smiley face drawn with hearts. I sat on the couch again. Opened my phone. Typed out a message to Nolan. Something weird happened. I think someone followed me. I hovered my finger over send. But then I erased it. Because if I told Nolan, he'd want to meet again. Want to protect me. Want to come closer. And right now, I didn't know if I wanted that. I wasn't sure if I wanted anyone close. I locked the phone and slid it under the couch cushion this time. Out of sight. I stared at the ceiling and listened to the quiet. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't comforting. It was the kind of quiet that comes before something shatters. And then, just before I closed my eyes, a memory came back. clear as day. At the cafe, Nolan had looked up over his coffee, smiled at me, and said, "Do you ever feel like someone's watching you, even when you're alone?" At the time, I'd laughed. No. I wasn't laughing. The next morning, I woke up with that feeling in my chest again. Like someone was pressing a fist between my ribs. It wasn't fear exactly, but it was close. I hadn't dreamed, or if I had, it didn't follow me into waking. Just that heaviness. That knowing. I didn't check my phone right away. Didn't want to. Didn't want to see another message from a number that shouldn't know me, shouldn't be watching. Instead, I went to the kitchen, barefoot, hair a mess, Nora's oversized hoodie swallowing me whole. The coffee pot still had some from yesterday, so I poured it, microwaved it, and drank it lukewarm. There was a scratch on the mug handle. I stared at it like it was a sign. Like maybe the universe was trying to tell me something, and I just didn't know the language yet. By noon, I still hadn't heard from Scott. Which made sense. I left. I betrayed him. Even if it wasn't physical, it was betrayal. Emotional. Deep. The kind you don't come back from easily. I kept thinking about his face, the way he didn't yell. Didn't rage. That still silence. It was worse than screaming. It meant he didn't have the energy to fight for us anymore. I opened my phone. Nothing. No texts from Scott. No Nolan either. And nothing from that unknown number. But my heart still wouldn't settle. Something felt unfinished. Like a thread hanging from a sweater you can't stop tugging. I showered, got dressed, jeans, loose flannel, sneakers. Basic. Neutral. I grabbed my keys. I didn't even know where I was going until I pulled out of Nora's driveway. I should have gone to work, checked in, at least pretended like my world wasn't cracking in half. Instead, I drove. Back to the cafe. Same parking lot. Same wooden bench outside. Same chalkboard sign that read, "A life begins after espresso." The girl behind the counter remembered me. "You want the croissant again?" she asked with a smile. I nodded, trying not to make eye contact. Her hair was bright purple this time, twisted up into two buns like cartoon antennae. I sat in the same spot Nolan and I had picked days ago. Corner table. Good view of the window. One chair slightly wobbly. I stirred my coffee 3 times before sipping it. Just to give my hands something to do. I waited. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. I wasn't sure what I was hoping for. To see Nolan? To catch someone staring? Maybe just to confirm I wasn't going insane. And then, at 1:42 p.m., my phone buzzed. Blocked number. Just a photo. I clicked it. My stomach dropped. It was me. Right then. At that exact table. Same pose. Same cup. Taken from outside. Through the cafe window. I looked up immediately. No one stood out. People walking, talking, checking their own phones. A guy smoking near the crosswalk. A woman pushing a stroller. A teen with a camera around his neck. But none of them were looking at me. I felt the panic rise fast and ugly. I texted Nora. "Hey. Can you call me?" She replied almost instantly. "You okay?" Before I could answer, the phone rang. I picked up. "Hey." Her voice was casual at first, but I must have sounded off, because it shifted quick. "What's going on?" I think someone's following me." A pause. "What? Like, actually following you?" "I'm at the cafe. I just got a photo. Of me." Sitting here. From outside. Another pause, longer this time. Did you see anyone? Anyone strange? No. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'm shaking. Okay, she said, suddenly firm. Get in your car. Now. Come back to my place. I'll be there in 20. I didn't argue. I left the coffee half full, the croissant untouched, and walked fast back to my car, glancing over my shoulder more times than I could count. I locked the doors before I even started the engine. Back at Nora's, I sat on the couch, knees up, hugging one of her ugly floral throw pillows like it could keep the world out. She arrived 5 minutes later, barefoot, hair wet from a rushed shower, her face tight with concern. You need to go to the cops, she said. And say what? I asked. That someone sent me a creepy photo? That someone's stalking you. That you're scared. That this isn't normal. I didn't reply. Because deep down, I wasn't sure if this was just about the photo. Or if it was about everything else I'd been ignoring for too long. The messages. The affair that wasn't but might have been. The loneliness. The way I invited the door to open and then acted shocked when something stepped through. Nora sat beside me. You need to tell Scott. I turned my head slowly. Why? Because this might get worse. Because maybe he needs to know. Because, maybe you owe him more than silence. I looked away. The silence in the room was thick. Then she added, quieter. Because maybe this didn't start with that message. Maybe it started when you stopped telling him how you felt. I closed my eyes. The truth sat heavy in my chest like wet cement. Maybe she was right. Maybe I'd been disappearing for longer than I realized. And maybe someone saw that crack and slid right in. That night, I sat in the guest bedroom, staring at my phone. Still no new messages. But the last one, the photo, was still there. A frozen version of me. Smiling. Alone. Vulnerable. I saved it. Not because I wanted to. But because I needed the reminder. Some things start small. And then they grow teeth. I didn't go to work the next day either. I told my manager I wasn't feeling well, which wasn't a lie, not really. My stomach was a knot. My chest tight. I couldn't focus on anything, and even the sound of my own voice felt foreign. Scott still hadn't called. And Nolan, he'd sent one message the night before. Are you okay? I haven't heard from you. I didn't reply. I wasn't sure what he was in anymore. A mistake? A symptom? Anita tried to fill in the worst way? It wasn't about him. Not really. But I kept thinking about how it felt to sit across from someone who actually saw me. Or made me feel like I was being seen. The difference between those two things was starting to terrify me. Nora left for work around 8. She told me to keep the door locked and call if anything felt off. She even left a bat by the front door, aluminum, pink grip, probably from her softball days. I tried to laugh about it, but my heart wasn't in it. After she left, I wandered the house like a ghost. Tried to read. Couldn't. Tried to watch TV. Nothing stuck. Eventually, I went into the guest bathroom, turned on the shower, and sat on the edge of the tub while the steam rose up like fog in a graveyard. I didn't get in. Just sat there. Let the room fill. I thought about the day Scott and I moved into our house. The smell of fresh paint. The way he carried me over the threshold as a joke. How he laughed when I screamed because I saw a spider in the sink. That version of us felt like strangers now. I was still sitting there when my phone buzzed again. Blocked number. New message. This one didn't have a photo. Just 4 words. You locked the door. I dropped the phone. Stared at it on the tile floor like it might explode. My breathing turned shallow. My pulse jumped so fast I felt dizzy. I stood up too fast and had to grab the towel rack to steady myself. I rushed to the front of the house. The bat was there. So was the door. I checked the knob. It was locked. But I yanked it open anyway and stepped out onto the porch. Nobody there. The street was quiet. A jogger in the distance. A garbage truck 2 blocks away. Wind. Leaves. Nothing else. I stepped back in and slammed the door shut, locking it again. Then I did something I hadn't done before. I called the number. It rang once. Then it clicked, and disconnected. Blocked. I tried again. Same result. I stared at the phone, trembling. This wasn't just creepy anymore. This was personal. Intimate. Wrong in a way that made my skin crawl. This person knew where I was. Knew the cafe. Knew what I wore. What I drank. When I locked the door. Who the hell watches someone this closely, and why? I called Nora. Told her everything. The new message. The wording. She didn't hesitate this time. Call the cops, she said. Right now. I mean it. This is stalking. I don't have proof, I whispered. Just messages. Messages are enough, she said. Go to the station. Or I'll come pick you up and drag you there myself. So I did. I drove myself to the station, heart thudding so loud it felt like thunder in my ears. I showed them the messages. The photo. Explained everything as calmly as I could. They asked if I had enemies. Exes. Anyone with a reason to harass me. I shook my head. I didn't mention Nolan. Didn't mention Scott either. I just said I was recently separated and staying with a friend. That I didn't feel safe. The officer, young, maybe early 30s, nodded like he'd heard this all before. He took screenshots of everything. Logged my report. Told me they'd look into it but that I should stay somewhere secure. Change my routines. Be aware. I walked out feeling worse. Not because they didn't believe me. They did. But because they couldn't protect me from what was already inside my life. I got back to Nora's just after noon. Checked every window. Closed the blinds. Sat on the couch with my knees pulled up and the bat within reach. I didn't know what I was waiting for. Another message? A knock? Something worse? But nothing happened. All day, nothing. By evening, I started to think maybe it was over. Maybe whoever it was got bored. Or got scared. Maybe the cops spooked them somehow. And just as I was starting to breathe again, Nora came home. She walked in holding her phone. Her face was pale. What? I asked. She held it out to me. Someone had texted her. An unknown number. Just one sentence. Does she know you let her sleep near the window? I didn't speak. Didn't move. We just stood there. In the house I thought was safe. And realized it wasn't. Nothing was. We slept in the living room that night. Didn't even talk about it. Just moved the couch cushions to the floor, pulled the blinds tight, and turned off every light. Nora locked all 3 doors, front, back, garage, then wedged a chair under the handle for good measure. She left her pink softball bat by the coffee table. I kept my phone in my hand like it might save me if something happened. We didn't say much. There wasn't much to say. Just silence, broken by the hum of the fridge and the occasional gust of wind against the windows. I didn't sleep. Not really. I think Nora dozed off around 2 a.m., her arm across her forehead, breathing slow and steady like someone who was pretending to be calm for someone else's sake. At one point, I got up and checked the blinds. Peeked outside. Nothing. Street was empty. One street lamp flickering like it had the shakes. I sat back down and stared at the dark ceiling. My mind was chewing itself to pieces. Who the hell would go this far? Why? What did they want? And the worst part, somewhere deep down, I felt like I knew. Not a name. Not a face. But I had this sick feeling in my gut that whoever it was, they thought this was something real. Some twisted version of connection. I remembered the early messages. The voice notes. The way it made me feel. Seen. Heard. Touched without being touched. And then I remembered something else. Nolan had mentioned a friend once. Someone who edited videos for a living. He joked about how the guy was always lurking in coffee shops, filming strangers for visual inspo. I hadn't thought much of it. But now I wondered if Nolan had talked about me. Showed a photo. Shared too much. I opened my phone. Scrolled through every old thread with Nolan, looking for something, anything, that might link him to this. A name. A hint. A slip-up. I didn't find one. But I found something else. A photo he sent weeks ago, a blurry shot of a man walking across a crosswalk. Late afternoon. Harsh shadows. The man had a hoodie on. Head down. Back then, Nolan had captioned it. Thought this guy looked like a ghost. I stared at the photo now, heart pounding. Because the storefront in the background? It was the same cafe. Same day. Same hour. I zoomed in. And there I was. Sitting inside. Barely visible. Just a blur in the corner. But definitely me. That photo wasn't about the guy in the hoodie. It was about me. My hands shook. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I texted. We need to talk. Right now. Then again? Who did you tell about me? And then? Don't lie. No reply. I sat there, pulse loud in my ears, until the phone finally lit up. Incoming call. Nolan. I answered before the second ring. You need to tell me the truth, I said, no hello, no preamble. What's going on? He asked, groggy. Wait, is everything okay? Did you tell anyone about me? Show them pictures? Talk about where I'd be? Silence. Then, softly. No. Why would I do that? Think, I snapped. Anyone you mentioned me to. Even casually. A pause. I mean, maybe, he said. I talk about stuff. Work. You came up. Not by name. Just, as someone I like talking to. Who did you talk to, Nolan? Jesus, I don't know, he muttered. Why are you freaking out? Because someone's stalking me, I said, voice low, tight. Someone knows where I am. What I do. They texted Nora. They know I slept near the window. He went quiet. Then. Oh my God. What? Another pause. I think I know who it is. Tell me. It's this guy. Brant. He used to be in my writing group. Kinda quiet, weird. Obsessed with people. Like, really into character stuff. He always asked questions that went too far. Last year, I mentioned someone I was talking to online. Just said you had a beautiful voice. I didn't give details. Swear to God. My skin prickled. Could he have found me? I don't know, Nolan said, voice shaky now. He's persistent. One of those nothing's private types. He brags about how easy it is to find people online. I sat back, heart sinking. Nolan, I whispered, he sent me photos. From outside the cafe. Of me. Just sitting there. He didn't speak. Then. I'm so sorry. That's not enough. I know. Click. I hung up. I stared at the wall for what felt like hours. Nora woke up not long after. I told her everything. About Nolan. About Brant. About the photo with me in the background, weeks ago. She didn't say, I told you so. Just nodded and said we had to go back to the cops. We did. Filed another report. Showed them the new messages. Gave Brant's name. They said they'd look into it. But I could see it in their eyes, unless this guy crossed a physical line, there wasn't much they could do. We left the station around 4. On the way back, my phone buzzed. AirDrop request. From a nearby device. The name? Just watching. I didn't accept it. Didn't even look at the image. Just turned off Bluetooth, threw the phone in the glove box, and told Nora to drive faster. Because suddenly, it didn't matter who it was. What mattered was that they were getting bolder. That night, I sat at Nora's kitchen table with a piece of printer paper and a Sharpie. I wrote out every message. Every time. Every location. Every person involved. Nolan. Brant. The cops. Even the girl at the cafe with the purple hair. I listed what I knew. What I didn't. What I thought I saw. What I might have imagined. Because at that point, I wasn't even sure my memory was working right. I hadn't been home in 5 days. Scott hadn't reached out. And maybe that was the loudest silence I'd ever heard. I missed the creak of our floorboards. The way he left one sock by the bed and always forgot the other. I missed his smell. Not the cologne, he'd stopped wearing that years ago, but the real smell. That mix of shampoo and coffee and laundry soap. It haunted me. But I didn't text him. Couldn't. What was I supposed to say? Hey, someone's stalking me. I think it's because of the man I emotionally cheated with. Can I come home? No. So I kept scribbling on that sheet of paper, like if I wrote enough, I could untangle it all. The clock blinked 1:13 a.m. The house was dark. Nora had long gone to bed. I didn't want to wake her. She'd already done too much. Opened her home. Given me space. Believed me. The Sharpie squeaked on the last line. And then, the silence broke. Buzz. My phone lit up on the table. Blocked number. Another message. This time it read. You not safe with her either. I stared at the words for what felt like an hour. My mouth went dry. My palms started to sweat. My ears rang with a high-pitched whine, like I'd suddenly been dropped underwater. Then another message. Come home. I stood up so fast my chair tipped over behind me. No sound in the house. No creaking. No voice. Just the blue glow of that message on my screen. I picked up the phone. Opened the blinds. Peered out the front window. And froze. There, across the street, half hidden behind a tree, was a shape. Too still to be casual. Too shadowed to be safe. I couldn't make out a face. But I knew someone was there. Watching. My stomach twisted. I backed away from the window, heart racing, trying not to breathe too loud. I locked the front door, again. Slid the chain into place. I almost called the police. Again. But what would I say? He's just standing there. That's not illegal. That's not enough. I crept down the hall and opened Nora's bedroom door a crack. She stirred. Sat up. I whispered, "Someone's outside." She was up in seconds. No questions. No disbelief. She grabbed the bat. Called the cops. They came in 11 minutes. He was gone by then. Of course he was. They took another report. Did another slow drive around the block. Promised extra patrols. Left with tired eyes and fake sympathy. I didn't sleep at all. And the next morning, something shifted in me. A line got crossed. I was done hiding. I packed my bag. Shoved everything back into the same tote I'd brought 5 days ago. Socks, charger, pills, the book I never read. Nora stood in the hallway, frowning. "You sure?" "No," I said. "But I'm not going to let this man push me out of my own life." "What about Scott?" I hesitated. "I don't know." But I got in my car. Drove toward home. Every stoplight felt like a decision. Every car behind me felt suspicious. I parked on the street, not the driveway. Just in case. Walked up slow. Key in the lock. Deep breath. And then the door opened before I turned the knob. Scott stood there. He looked tired. Older than I remembered. He didn't say anything. Just stepped aside. I walked in. It smelled like our house. Like old books and dog shampoo and burnt toast. Everything where I left it. Except him. He leaned on the doorframe. Arms crossed. "You look thin," he said. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, "I need to talk to you." "Yeah," he said. "Me too." We sat in the living room. The air was heavy. Like it knew what was coming. "I've been getting messages," I started. "Stalker. Watching me. Watching Nora. I think it started because of him." Scott nodded once. I figured something was going on. He reached down. Picked something up from the coffee table. A photo. I froze. It was me. From the cafe. But not the one Nolan took. This was a new angle. Lower. Closer. "You got this?" I asked. It was in the mailbox. No return address. "When?" "2 days ago." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't know if I had the right," he said softly. That broke something inside me. "I never slept with him," I whispered. "I know," he said. Silence. Then he added. "But you gave him the parts of you I miss." I cried then. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just soft tears that didn't stop. And when I looked up, he was crying too. For the first time in years. But before I could speak. Knock. Knock. On the front door. We both turned. Scott stood first. I followed. He opened it. Nothing there. Just a single envelope on the porch. My name, handwritten. Inside? A flash drive. No note. Just that. And in that moment, I knew whatever came next, it wouldn't be quiet. The flash drive felt heavier than it should have. I held it in my hand, turning it over, my name scrawled on the envelope in blocky letters, like someone was trying to mimic handwriting from memory. No return address. No logo. Just that unsettling kind of effort, the kind that says I know you, but you don't know me. Scott stood behind me, arms crossed, eyes hard. He didn't speak. I wanted to throw it out. Right then. Snap it in half, toss it in the trash, pretend it didn't exist. But something in me, that same sick curiosity that answered the first message, that met Nolan in a cafe, that let the messages keep coming, wanted to know. What are you going to do? Scott finally asked. I don't know, I said. I don't even have a laptop. He nodded toward the office. Use mine. That felt strange. Stepping into that room again. It still smelled like him, old coffee and carpet cleaner and ink. His battered chair creaked like it remembered me. The screensaver was still that photo of us at the lake, 3 summers ago, the one I always said I hated but never changed. I sat down. Slid the flash drive into the port. It whirred. A folder popped up. No label. Just one video file. Titled simply, Alone. I hovered the mouse over it, hand trembling. Scott stood in the doorway. Watching. You don't have to, he said quietly. I clicked. The screen went black for a second. Then static. And then... me. In Nora's house. From behind the living room blinds. I gasped. It was footage, shaky, zoomed in, probably from a phone. But it was clear enough to see everything. Me walking in. Sitting on the couch. Talking to Nora. Laughing. Crying. The angle changed. Another clip, me at the cafe. Sipping coffee. Looking out the window. Next clip, me outside Kroger, fumbling for my keys. Another, me sleeping on Nora's couch, curled into myself like a child. I felt bile rise in my throat. I clicked pause. Scott walked over slowly. Put a hand on the back of the chair. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. Because we both knew what this meant now. It wasn't random. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't Nolan. This was someone obsessed. Someone close enough to know my patterns, my movements, my life. Someone who had been following me for weeks. Maybe months. I stood up too fast, heart racing. My hands shook so bad I had to grip the desk just to stay upright. I need to go, I muttered. Scott blocked the door. Where? I don't know. Running won't fix this, he said. Whoever this is, they want you scared. Alone. That's the whole point. I am alone, I snapped. You think this is about some guy I texted? This started long before Nolan. He flinched like I'd slapped him. I hated how it felt to say that. But I couldn't take it back. I didn't feel like your wife anymore, I added. I felt like a roommate you didn't want to talk to. His jaw tightened. He looked like he wanted to argue. But he didn't. Instead, he stepped aside. I grabbed the flash drive and left the room. But I didn't leave the house. Not yet. I sat on the stairs. The dog came over, our old retriever, Maggie, and rested her head on my knee like she didn't care about any of it. She just wanted me to sit still. I stroked her ears, mind racing. Then I remembered something. Back in that first week, when the messages started, I'd gotten an email from an unfamiliar address. Nothing creepy. Just a short line. Your writing meant a lot to me. At the time, I'd thought it was from Nolan. No. I wasn't sure. I opened my phone. Searched my inbox. Found it. Then I did something I hadn't thought to do before. I clicked the profile. It was a Gmail. No name. But when I tapped the info icon, it showed a connected Google profile. The icon was blank. But the username? brnt.spctr. Brant. My stomach dropped. I copied the address. Texted it to Nolan. This him? He responded fast. Yes. That's him. Brant Spector. I stared at the name. Spector. Ghost. It felt so on the nose it made my skin crawl. Scott walked over. Do we have enough now? He asked. I nodded slowly. Yeah. I think we do. We drove to the station together. This time, I brought everything. The video. The messages. The email. I gave them his name. His username. His connection to Nolan. They took it seriously now. Opened an official investigation. Said they'd file for a warrant, trace the IP. Get a restraining order. Maybe more. But they also said what I already knew. Until he did something, really did something, there was only so much they could do. I nodded. Thanked them. And left. Scott drove in silence. When we pulled into our driveway, he turned to me. You can stay here, he said. If you want. I looked at the house. A house. And I felt something unexpected. Relief. Not because I forgave him. Not because he forgave me. But because I wasn't ready to be alone again. Not yet. That night, I sat on our bed, phone off, laptop closed, blinds drawn. And for the first time in weeks, I slept. I didn't dream that night. Or if I did, I don't remember any of it. What I do remember is waking up to the smell of coffee. Scott had made a pot, strong, the way I used to like it, before I switched to green tea and silence. I came downstairs in one of his old t-shirts. The one with the faded minor league logo he never threw away. It still smelled like him. That mix of cedar soap and dryer sheets and something deeper, something I never could name. He was sitting at the table, sipping from his chipped blue mug, phone face down next to him. He looked up when I entered. Not surprised. Not stiff. Just tired. And present. I didn't want to wake you, he said. You didn't. I poured a cup, even though I wasn't sure I'd drink it. We sat there in the kind of silence that's heavy, but not dangerous. The kind that holds the room without breaking it. Finally, I asked, what happens now? He shrugged. Not out of indifference, more like defeat. We wait, I guess. The cops said they'd update us. Maybe this Brant guy gets scared off now that they're involved. I nodded, blowing on the coffee, watching the steam disappear. And us? I added. It just came out. I didn't plan to ask. But it was floating there, and I was too tired to keep it in. He didn't answer right away. Then he leaned back in his chair and said, I don't know. Fair. I want to fix things, I whispered. That surprised me. Even me. He looked down at his mug. Turned it once, slowly, like he was trying to make sense of the pattern. I don't know if we can, he said. I nodded. Took a sip. Bitter. Strong. Real. We forgot each other, I said, eyes still on the table. He didn't argue. Because it was true. That day passed slowly. The cops called just after noon. They had traced the email account to a VPN. No direct location yet. But they confirmed it was linked to a name, Ebrant Spectre. They advised we get a security system. Recommended a few names. Scott ordered one on the spot. I watched from the hallway as he clicked through options, reading specs and reviews with the same focus he used to have when picking out new tires or checking our 401k status. And for the first time in a long time, I saw something familiar in him. Care. The rest of the day was quiet. Uneventful. Almost normal. Dinner was frozen lasagna. We ate in the living room with the TV on low. A rerun of Jeopardy! Playing in the background. At one point, he reached for my hand. Just gently. Like he was testing the water. And I let him. Not because I knew where we were going. But because touch felt like a bridge I wasn't ready to burn. That night, I checked my phone. No new messages. Nothing from Brandt. Nothing from Nolan. Just silence. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was unfinished. That this wasn't over. I couldn't explain it, just a pulse, deep in my chest. Like a song stuck in my head without lyrics. So I did what I always do when my brain won't stop spinning. I wrote. Not a message. Not a journal. A letter. To him. Not Brandt. Nolan. I wrote. I don't know what you were hoping for. Maybe you thought I needed saving. Maybe I did. But not by you. I wanted to feel alive again. I won't lie about that. But you turned something tender into something dangerous. I don't forgive you. And I don't hate you. But you opened a door. And now I have to live with what walked through it. Don't contact me again. Please. Let this end here. I didn't send it. I just saved it in my notes app. And went to bed. But sleep didn't come as easy. Because around 3:22 a.m., I woke up to a sound. Not loud. Not violent. Just soft. Metal on wood. I sat up, ears sharp, heart pounding. Scott stirred beside me. What? He mumbled. Shush, I whispered. Do you hear that? He froze. There it was again. A scrape. From downstairs. We moved slowly. Barefoot. Careful. He grabbed the bat we'd kept by the bedroom door now. I held my phone, flashlight ready, fingers over 911. We crept down the stairs. The living room was dark. Still. Nothing out of place. But the front door. It was open. Not wide. Just a crack. Like someone had pushed it gently. Scott stepped forward. I grabbed his arm. No, I whispered. We shut it. Locked it. Checked every room. Every window. Every latch. Nothing else was disturbed. No broken glass. No missing items. But on the floor, right in front of the door, was a single sheet of paper. Folded twice. I picked it up. No envelope. No name. Just one line, written in red ink. You invited me in. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. I just stood there, shaking, while Scott read over my shoulder. And then I said, quietly, more to myself than to him. He's not going to stop. We didn't sleep the rest of the night. We sat in the living room with every light on, backs against the wall, facing the door. Like it might open again at any second. Scott held the bat the whole time. He didn't put it down once. I had my phone in my lap, open to the emergency call screen. My thumb hovered over the green button, twitching every time the house creaked or the fridge hummed. That paper sat on the coffee table, unfolded, that line still there in red ink. You invited me in. We didn't talk. We just, Saturday. Listening. Waiting. At 6:02 a.m., when the sky started to go grey, we called the police. Again. This time, they took it seriously. Really seriously. 2 cars showed up. One officer stood guard at the front of the house while the other came inside to take our statements. They photographed the paper. They checked the door, the windows, the porch. No signs of forced entry. No prints on the handle. No cameras nearby caught anything. They asked again about who it could be. I told them everything this time. From the beginning. Nolan. The messages. The emotional affair. Brant. They took notes. Lots of them. When I got to the letter on the flash drive, the video footage from Nora's house, the officer, a woman this time, her name was Martinez, looked up and said, "This is stalking. Predatory. He's escalating." Her partner, a younger guy with nervous eyes, asked if we had family nearby. If we wanted to relocate for a while. I shook my head. "This is our home," I said. "We're not leaving." Scott nodded beside me. He hadn't said much since the paper. But he stayed close. The cops filed the report. Promised extra surveillance. Set up motion alerts for the street. Even brought in a contact from cybercrime to look deeper into Brant's digital history. Still, after they left, I didn't feel safer. I felt hunted. Later that morning, I sat on the couch, still in my robe, hands wrapped around a hot mug of tea I wasn't drinking. Scott was on the phone in the next room, talking to a guy from a private security company. Getting quotes. Asking about surveillance, emergency buttons, monitored alarms. While he talked, I scrolled through Nolan's old messages. I don't know why I did it. Maybe to remember what it felt like. Before everything spiraled. There was one from a month ago, an audio message. I hadn't listened to it at the time. I'd been angry that day. Distant. I almost deleted it now, but something made me tap play. His voice came through soft, late-night low. "I think about you when I walk home sometimes. Not in a creepy way. Just wondering if you feel as lonely in your house as I do in mine. I see the porch lights on, and I wonder what it would be like to sit beside you with no phones. No talking. Just presence." I paused the message. The porch lights. He didn't know where I lived. Not then. At least, I hadn't told him. But if he passed by? My stomach turned. I opened Google Maps, pulled up my address. Searched local cafes, parks, bus stops. And there it was. A bus route that dropped off 2 blocks away. A walking path right behind our neighborhood. It would have been easy to watch. To listen. To learn. I felt cold all over. I didn't have proof Nolan ever came here. But that message, that one tiny slip, it was enough. I forwarded it to Officer Martinez. Added a message. I think he knew where I lived before I did. That afternoon, Scott installed new locks. Not just regular ones, keypad entries, motion-activated floodlights, cameras with cloud storage. We didn't talk much while he worked. But at one point, I handed him a screwdriver, and our fingers brushed. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. That night, we didn't sit in silence. We sat together. On the couch. He put on music. One of those old playlists we used to dance to when we still touched each other without asking first. And slowly, without words, he took my hand. We swayed in the living room like we were 30 again. No phones. No talking. Just presence. It didn't fix anything. But it reminded me there was still something worth holding on to. Until my phone buzzed. I pulled away. Looked at the screen. Unknown number. A new message. This one said, "You changed the locks. But you left the window open." I looked at Scott. He was already on his feet. We ran. Every window locked. Every curtain drawn. Except the one in the laundry room. Barely cracked. But open. And sitting on the windowsill, like a signature, was a small, folded paper crane. Bright red. I picked it up with trembling hands. No message inside. Just the shape. Precise. Perfect. Silent. Scott took it from me. "I'm calling Martinez." I nodded. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't going to stop. Not until I stopped it. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, not in the same way as before. This was something different. A kind of clarity. Sharp. Cold. Like ice water in my veins. The red origami crane sat on the kitchen counter, its tiny folded wings casting long shadows under the dim stove light. It looked innocent. Beautiful, even. But it wasn't. It was a message. A signature. A threat. Scott stayed close, moving from window to window like he could seal the house up with muscle alone. But even he knew what I knew, locks didn't matter anymore. This man wasn't breaking in. He was invited. I stared at the crane. That phrase wouldn't leave my head. "You invited me in." It sounded spiritual. Symbolic. But it wasn't metaphor anymore. It was literal. Someone had watched, listened, followed, and now, entered. And I let it happen. Not physically, maybe. But emotionally? I cracked the door. Left it open just enough for something to slip through. Now I had to shut it. Slam it. Burn it down if I had to. By 5 a.m., I had a plan. Not a perfect one. But it was something. I texted Officer Martinez. "I want to bait him." She called within minutes. "No," she said immediately. "Absolutely not. You're not trained for this." "I know," I said. "But it's the only way he'll stop. He wants me to see him. To feel him watching. I say we give him what he wants." "You could get hurt," she warned. "You already are hurt." "I'm not asking for permission," I said. "I'm telling you what I'm going to do." Silence. Then she exhaled. "What's your plan?" I told her everything. The cafe. The route. The time. Where I'd sit. What I'd wear. She agreed to place plainclothes officers nearby. Inside. Outside. Parking lot. The whole thing. "Keep your phone visible," she said. "Keep your hands in sight. And if anything feels wrong, you get out. Got it?" I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Got it. I didn't tell Scott everything. Just that I needed to go out. He didn't fight me. Just looked at me with those tired, weathered eyes and said, "Be careful." I wore a gray hoodie. No makeup. Hair tied back. As neutral as I could. I left my wedding ring on the nightstand. Not because it didn't mean anything. But because today, It had to mean nothing. At exactly 2:07 p.m., I walked into the cafe. Same one as before. Ordered an Americano. Sat at the corner table, back to the wall, just like the first time. I pulled out a book I wasn't going to read, a decoy. Just something to make it look like I belonged. Then I waited. 20 minutes. Nothing. 30. I started to think maybe he wouldn't show. Maybe the cameras and cops scared him off. And then, the door opened. A man walked in. Hood up. Sunglasses on. Tall. Thin. Not Nolan. Not anyone I recognized. He didn't look at me. Didn't glance around. Just went to the counter. Ordered tea. Sat by the window. I watched him through the book cover. My heart pounded, but I kept breathing. Kept still. Another 10 minutes passed. Then he stood. Walked toward the restroom. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One new message. That color looks good on you. I didn't move. Didn't look up. I simply slid my phone onto the table. Face up. Camera aimed toward the hallway near the restrooms. Then another message. Turn around. I didn't. I stood up. Walked calmly to the counter. Smiled at the barista. Excuse me, I said, loud enough to carry, but I think someone's filming people in here. She blinked, startled. Then nodded. The plan was in motion. Within seconds, one of the plainclothes officers stood up near the back door. Another moved toward the bathroom. Everything got quiet. The man with the hoodie stepped out. Too late. 2 more officers came in behind him. He tried to turn. Run. But they were faster. Hands on shoulders. Voice commands. Tension thick enough to cut. No one screamed. No one panicked. He didn't fight. He just went limp. Like he knew this moment was coming. They pulled him out through the side exit. Martinez caught my eye through the glass. Nodded once. I sat back down. My coffee was cold. My hands were trembling. And even though I knew I should feel relief, I didn't. Not yet. Because a question kept echoing in my head. Was it really him? Was it only him? Or did I just snip one thread in a web I helped spin? I pulled out my phone again. Opened my texts. Scrolled down to Nolan. I hovered over his name. Then blocked the number. It felt like closing a door I should have locked long ago. Back at home, Scott didn't say anything. He just opened the front door for me. I stepped inside. Kicked off my shoes. And stood there. Breathing. Present. Alive. Until my phone buzzed again. Blocked number. One message. Just 2 words. Nice try. My heart dropped. Because that voice in my head? It was right. I read the message 5 times before I moved. Nice try. No punctuation. No name. Just that. It hit harder than any scream. Harder than the knock on the window. The paper crane. The photo from the street. Because it meant one thing. We got the wrong man. I sank onto the hallway bench, legs numb, chest hollow. Scott stepped out of the kitchen holding a glass of water. Everything okay? He asked, already knowing the answer. I turned the phone around and showed him the screen. His face darkened in a way I hadn't seen before. He didn't ask if I was sure. He didn't say maybe it was a delay or a coincidence. He just sat beside me, the weight of his silence doing all the talking. The cops had someone in custody. But it wasn't over. It wasn't even close. Who else could it be? I whispered. Scott shook his head. We'd eliminated Nolan. At least. I thought we had. We'd ID'd Brandt. Reported him. We had footage. Names. Dates. And still, someone was watching. Or worse, listening. We checked every inch of the house that night. Every smoke detector, picture frame, vent, lamp. We even unscrewed the TV. Nothing. It felt ridiculous. Paranoid. But I didn't care. Paranoia kept us alive. That night, I slept on the couch, phone clutched in both hands, like a weapon I didn't know how to use. I dreamed I was in an elevator that wouldn't stop. Every floor opened to a new version of me, laughing, crying, yelling, silent. Each one stared back at me like they knew what I'd done. And none of them forgave me. The next morning, the police called. Officer Martinez, her voice sharper than usual. They'd reviewed Brandt's devices. There were screenshots. Photos. Saved messages. But no recent ones. Nothing from the last week. Brandt had gone dark before the porch note. Before the crane. Before the window message. She sighed. Either he's working with someone, she said, or we're looking at a copycat. The words made my skin crawl. Copycat. Someone who saw what Brandt had done, and decided to finish the story. But who? Scott and I sat in the dining room for an hour with notepads, like detectives in our own damn house. We wrote down every name. Every possibility. People from work. Neighbors. Acquaintances. But the problem was, there weren't many. We'd isolated ourselves years ago. No social life. No close friends. Just nodding at people in the produce aisle and waving across driveways. Then Scott said it. Could it be someone from your job? The thought made my stomach twist. I work remotely now. But before that, I was front desk at a family dentist's office. Lots of patients. Familiar faces. But no real interactions that lingered. I shook my head. I don't think so. He hesitated. There's one more person I haven't mentioned, he said. I turned slowly. He looked guilty. Uneasy. Last year, he said, I hired a guy to help with the fence. Just a freelance contractor. He showed up a few times, real quiet. Kept asking about you. I blinked. What? At first, I thought he was just making conversation. But then he came by once when I wasn't home. You weren't either. Left a note on the gate. Just said, nice yard. That was it. I stared at him. You never told me? I didn't think it meant anything, he said. Not until now. I stood up. This could have helped weeks ago. He didn't defend himself. Just nodded. I'll call Martinez. He did. Gave them the name, what little we had. A first name, Reed, and a number that had long since been disconnected. They promised to look. But I could feel it already. This was another dead end. Later that night, I did something I hadn't done in a while. I turned on my old laptop. The one I used before the marriage got quiet. Before Nolan. Before everything. It still had my old writing on it. Essays. Half-finished short stories. Personal journal entries I'd saved as Word docs, named things like Tuesday Rain and Don't Forget This. I clicked through them. Searching for something I didn't even understand. A sentence. A phrase. A name. And then I found it. A document titled Listener. It was dated 10 months ago. Just after the first message from Nolan. I clicked it open. It wasn't a story. It was a letter. To someone. Not named. Just. You feel like someone I knew in another life. Maybe we were both invisible then, drifting through rooms without names. But now, you see me. And I'm scared of how much I need it. I scrolled down. Paragraphs. Pages. I had no memory of writing any of it. But it was my voice. My rhythm. My scars. At the bottom was a line that made me cold. If you ever come find me, I won't run. Just knock once. I'll know it's you. I stared at that screen for a long time. Not because of what it said. But because of what it meant. Somewhere along the way, I'd invited a stranger into my head, and maybe my words had given them a script. I shut the laptop. Closed it like a coffin lid. And just then, 3 knocks echoed from the front door. Slow. Even. Measured. I didn't move. I couldn't. Scott stood in the hallway, frozen. We looked at each other. Not a word passed between us. Then a voice came from the other side of the door. Male. Soft. Chilling. Ready when you are. We didn't open the door. Not at first. We stood there, frozen, breathless, like children in a nightmare pretending the monster wouldn't see us if we didn't move. Scott's hand was on the bat. Mine was clenched tight around my phone, ready to dial 911, even though I knew it would take them at least 8 minutes to arrive. And 8 minutes felt like forever. On the other side of the door, the voice didn't speak again. Just those 3 words, like a whisper echoing through the frame. Ready when you are. Scott leaned toward the peephole, slow and silent. He stiffened. Then turned to me. It's not Brandt, he said. Not the guy from the cafe either. I didn't ask how he knew. I just nodded. We backed away from the door. And that's when we heard it. A soft click. The door handle turning. But it didn't open. Because this time, the deadbolt was on. Reinforced. We'd changed the lock 2 days ago. Still, he tried. Just one slow, deliberate jiggle. And then silence. I called Martinez. Whispered into the phone. She didn't hesitate. We are on the way. Stay put. Stay together. We waited. 4 minutes. 5. Scott never moved from the doorway. I stayed behind him, heart hammering, ears tuned to every creak in the house. Then we heard it, footsteps. Not fast. Not running. Just walking. Away. By the time the officers arrived, the street was empty. No cars. No strangers. Just wind and scattered leaves. They checked everything. Again. No prints. No notes. No camera footage from nearby homes, we asked. Everyone else's cameras were either off, broken, or pointed the wrong direction. Just like before. Too clean. Too careful. But something changed after that night. Martinez stayed longer. She brought someone from behavioral analysis. A profiler. He sat at our dining table, polite and calm, the kind of calm that makes you feel like maybe you're not losing your mind. He asked questions. When it started. How it escalated. Who I thought it was. Not just names, he said. Tell me about the feeling. The pattern. what they want. And I told him the truth. I think he wants to be let in. Not just physically. Psychologically. I think he's trying to break the part of me that said no. He nodded like he already knew that. This isn't about hurting you, he said. It's about owning you. That word made my skin crawl. Later, I asked Martinez what would happen next. We'll monitor. We'll stay close. But unless he does something physical. She trailed off. I understood. So I did something else. I went back to the cafe. Alone. I sat in the same spot. Wore the same hoodie. Ordered the same drink. I waited. And this time, I didn't look around. Didn't glance over my shoulder or scan the windows. I looked straight ahead. And I spoke to no one and everyone. If you're watching this, I said softly, barely above a whisper, I want you to hear me. My phone was recording, screen down on the table. Audio only. I'm not scared of you anymore. Not because you're not dangerous. But because I've decided something you'll never understand. I took a breath. You don't own me. You never did. You don't know me, even though you think you do. You read my words, followed my routines, memorized my shadows, but you missed the part where I'm still here. I leaned closer to the mic. You lose. Today. Tomorrow. Every day after. Even if I never know your name, you don't win. I ended the recording. Saved it. Posted it online. A locked account. Just one follower, Air Officer Martinez. That night, I didn't sleep on the couch. I slept in our bed. Scott beside me. Maggie curled at our feet. No knocks. No texts. No paper cranes. And the next morning? The silence felt different. Not empty. Not haunted. Just quiet. Real. Martinez texted me around 10 a.m. One line. Got him. I stared at it, barely breathing. She sent the rest in a second message. It wasn't Brandt. It wasn't Nolan. It wasn't the cafe guy. Or the man at the fence. It was someone I hadn't thought of in years. A former co-worker from the dental office. A part-timer named Jared who used to clean the floors after hours. Barely spoke. Kept to himself. Always wore headphones. Never made eye contact. He'd read everything. Every blog post. Every essay. Every review I'd ever written online under that old pen name I forgot I even used. He'd created 27 email addresses. 5 fake social profiles. 2 burner phones. He'd been in our neighborhood twice before the first message. He had a map in his apartment. A printed one. With red dots. And my name on top in block letters. Martinez didn't tell me everything. Just enough. They had him. There'd be a trial. A restraining order. Safety. And yet, as I stood at the window that night, coffee in hand, dog at my feet, I still watched the street. Still flinched at shadows. Still felt the weight of what I'd let in. But I also knew something else. It didn't break me. It changed me. But I was still standing. And sometimes, that's enough. That's the win. That's the ending. Or maybe it's just the start.